In the vast reaches of space, far beyond Earth, a peaceful galactic alliance thrived, a coalition of diverse species from every corner of the universe. It was a network built on mutual respect, technology, and order, each species ranked for their intelligence, combat prowess, and diplomatic skills. And among them, humans were near the bottom, barely considered a blip in the vast expanse of evolved civilizations. The Tarvans, one of the most respected and advanced species in the Alliance, had no need for violence. Their culture had transcended the need for brute force. They valued intellect, pacifism, and logic above all. As intergalactic diplomats, their role was to assess the readiness of newly integrated species into positions of importance. Today, they had one mission: evaluate humans. Their assessment, up to this point, had been unimpressive. Humans, they believed, were erratic, emotionally driven, and prone to conflict. Earth's recent entry into the Alliance was seen as little more than a formality. Tarvans didn't understand why humanity was considered valuable at all. They viewed humans as a species that had developed technology quickly but still clung to their primitive, chaotic instincts. Peacekeepers? It seemed laughable to the Tarvans. To complete their evaluation, a small delegation of Tarvan diplomats traveled to one of the more disreputable space stations in the galaxy. A human-run station, rough around the edges, chaotic. This wasn't the shining example of humanity's finest achievements, but it was precisely where they needed to be. If there was any truth to human potential, it would reveal itself here. They entered a dimly lit, crowded bar at the heart of the station. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the smell of unrecognizable alien concoctions and the sound of multiple languages blending into a near incomprehensible hum. The walls were adorned with outdated human memorabilia, a relic of Earth's past, primitive, as the Tarvans saw it. Sitting at a corner table, the Tarvan leader glanced around the room. It was clear this place was not built for diplomacy. Rough-looking characters filled every corner: mercenaries, traders, and humans. It was a microcosm of the galaxy's underbelly, and in the center of it all, a human bartender wiped a glass nonchalantly, as if accustomed to the chaos surrounding him. Primitive, one Tarvan commented, watching the humans interact. They are far from ready for anything important. The others agreed. There was nothing here to suggest otherwise. Humans weren't like the Tarvans, who could solve disputes with dialogue and logic. But the Tarvans would observe. This was, after all, their mission. Their assumptions were already formed, but they would follow protocol. And then it began. At first, it was nothing more than raised voices, a typical dispute over something trivial, no doubt. A group of humans sat at the bar, enjoying their drinks when a towering reptilian alien entered, an enforcer of sorts, known for his brute strength. He scanned the room, his eyes landing on the humans at the bar. Tension crackled in the air. Another figure appeared, a cyborg bounty hunter, his arm gleaming with cybernetic enhancements. He approached the group at the bar, and the Tarvans watched, bemused. There was always conflict in these types of places. It was a matter of when, not if. The first punch landed with a resounding crack, as the reptilian alien sent one of the humans flying off his stool. The bar erupted into chaos. Chairs were overturned, glasses smashed, and the humans seemed woefully unprepared. The Tarvans exchanged knowing glances. This was exactly what they expected: humans outmatched, overpowered, unable to handle themselves in any meaningful conflict. But something shifted. The humans, while clearly at a disadvantage in terms of raw strength and technology, didn't retreat. In fact, they fought back with a ferocity that took the aliens by surprise. One human grabbed a chair, smashing it over the head of the reptilian attacker, sending him stumbling backward. Another human used a broken bottle as a makeshift weapon, slashing at the cyborg's exposed circuitry. The Tarvans leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. This wasn't what they anticipated. The humans were using whatever they could find, tables, bottles, even the environment around them, as weapons. They were quick, adapting to the chaos of the situation almost immediately. Still, the Tarvans remained skeptical. This was mere desperation, they thought. There was no strategy here, no refinement. just blind survival instinct. Surely, this couldn't be enough to hold their own against superior beings. But the humans weren't just surviving. They were winning. The bar had descended into complete chaos. Glass shattered on the floor, and the reptilian alien, now enraged, charged at the humans with a furious roar. His massive form barreled forward, knocking tables aside as if they were nothing more than fragile obstacles. The cyborg, meanwhile, recalibrated, his mechanical arm humming as weapons unfolded from beneath its surface. This was where the aliens should have won. Strength and advanced technology were on their side. The Tarvans, watching from the corner, expected the humans to retreat. It was the logical choice in the face of overwhelming force. But retreat wasn't on the humans' minds. They fought back, not with brute strength, but with something far more dangerous: adaptability. A human ducked under the reptilian's swing, narrowly avoiding a crushing blow. He didn't counter with strength. Instead, he grabbed a nearby table and slammed it into the alien's side, using leverage and speed to knock the giant off balance. The move was simple, improvised, and effective. The alien stumbled, surprised by the tactic. Another human used the distraction to grab a glass and hurl it at the cyborg's mechanical arm, hitting a critical joint. Sparks flew, and the cyborg's arm malfunctioned for a moment, leaving him vulnerable. The Tarvans exchanged puzzled glances. This wasn't how fights were supposed to go. In their experience, strength and superior weaponry always won the day. Yet, these humans were turning the tide of the battle through sheer ingenuity. Every object became a potential weapon in their hands, every movement calculated for maximum impact, despite the chaos. It wasn't just the humans' ability to fight back that shocked the Tarvans, it was the coordination. There was no obvious leader among them, yet their actions were perfectly timed, as if they instinctively knew when to strike, when to retreat, and how to exploit the weaknesses of their attackers. One human would throw a punch, only for another to follow up with a calculated move that left their opponent disoriented. The bartender, who had been calmly wiping glasses moments ago, was now issuing low, firm commands to the others. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise of the brawl. "Left!" he called out, and a human sidestepped just in time to avoid a blow from the cyborg. "Now!" he barked, and another human smashed a chair over the back of the reptilian's head. The bartender wasn't just part of the fight, he was directing it with the precision of a seasoned tactician. The Tarvans couldn't believe what they were seeing. They had expected chaos from the humans, but what they were witnessing was far from random. It was brutal, efficient teamwork. It was a form of combat they had never encountered, unpredictable, improvisational, and devastatingly effective. The reptilian alien, despite his size and strength, was now on the defensive. Every time he tried to land a blow, the humans were one step ahead, using the cluttered bar environment to their advantage. The cyborg's mechanical arm sparked again, its advanced targeting systems unable to keep up with the humans' erratic movements. They weren't following any predictable patterns, and the cyborg's programming wasn't built to handle such variables. One of the Tarvans, who had previously dismissed humans as inferior, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing in fascination. There was something unsettling about the way the humans fought. They weren't stronger or faster, but they were far more dangerous than he had anticipated. Every action was designed to turn the fight in their favor, regardless of the odds. The humans, it seemed, didn't need strength or technology to win. They needed only opportunity, and they knew how to create it. A table leg here, a broken bottle there, even the very environment of the bar became part of their arsenal. The reptilian, once so confident in his size, was now staggering, his massive bulk making him an easy target for the nimble humans darting around him. The cyborg, whose arm had finally failed, was left vulnerable. One human grabbed a piece of metal debris and, with a swift motion, jammed it into the cyborg's exposed circuitry. The cyborg twitched, his systems short-circuiting as his mechanical body collapsed onto the floor with a heavy thud. The Tarvans could no longer hide their surprise. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. According to their calculations, humans should have been overpowered within moments. But now, the once mighty reptilian alien was barely standing, and the cyborg lay defeated. What's more, the humans were barely winded. They stood amidst the wreckage of the bar, breathing heavily but triumphant. Their eyes were still sharp, still assessing, still ready for the next threat. The bartender, now standing at the center of it all, gave a nod to his companions. The fight was over, and they had won. The Tarvans, having watched the entire scene unfold, were silent. They had misjudged these humans, wildly so. The air in the bar was thick with tension. What had begun as an outburst of raw violence had transformed into something far more deliberate, far more unsettling. The humans weren't just reacting to the fight, they were controlling it. Every move was calculated, every strike carefully timed. The Tarvans, still watching intently, began to understand that this wasn't simply a brawl. It was something far more dangerous. The reptilian alien, once confident in his towering strength, was now faltering. His strikes were slower, more erratic. He wasn't used to fighting opponents who could adapt so quickly. The humans had figured him out. They weren't stronger, but they didn't need to be. They used his size against him, forcing him to stumble into traps they'd set, exploiting his every weakness. One of the humans darted in low, aiming for the alien's legs, forcing him to stagger back. Another came from the side, using a shattered chair leg to jab at the soft, vulnerable points of the reptilian's body. It wasn't brute force that was bringing him down, it was strategy, precision. The alien was slow to realize what was happening, and by the time he did, it was too late. He had lost control of the fight. The Tarvans observed in silence, their earlier skepticism slowly fading into something far more profound: fear. They had never seen combat like this. In their world, fights were clean, orderly, and predictable. But this was chaos turned into an art form. The humans weren't fighting with rules or codes of honor. They were fighting to win, and they didn't care how they did it. But it wasn't just the humans' tactics that unsettled the Tarvans. It was their resilience. Despite their smaller stature and lack of advanced weaponry, they didn't seem to know how to give up. One of the humans had taken a direct hit from the reptilian earlier, a blow that would have incapacitated most beings, but he was still on his feet, still fighting. His movements were slower, more deliberate, but his eyes burned with a determination that the Tarvans didn't understand. What drove these humans? Why didn't they retreat when the odds were stacked against them? The Tarvans had spent their entire existence believing that logic and reason were the highest forms of intelligence. But here, in this rundown bar, they were witnessing something they had never accounted for. The humans were operating on a different level, one that wasn't based on intellect or technology, but something far more primal: instinct, willpower, the refusal to back down. The fight continued, and with each passing moment, the Tarvans' understanding of humanity shifted. These weren't the primitive, chaotic beings they had assumed them to be. They were something else entirely. Something that couldn't be measured by the usual standards of the Galactic Alliance. The humans' adaptability was their greatest weapon. They didn't rely on one strategy or one set of skills. They changed with the situation, evolving as the fight progressed. When one approach didn't work, they switched to another, constantly staying ahead of their opponents. It wasn't just physical adaptability either. They were reading the fight, reading their enemies, learning with every passing second. The bartender, still calm and composed, directed his fellow humans with a subtle authority. His commands weren't loud, but they were followed without question. "On your left," he muttered, and a human pivoted just in time to avoid the reptilian's flailing arm. "Now!" he ordered, and another human struck with perfect timing, delivering a blow that sent the reptilian crashing to the ground. It was over. The reptilian, for all his size and strength, was defeated. He lay on the ground, barely conscious, while the humans stood victorious. They didn't cheer, didn't celebrate. They simply stood there, surveying the wreckage, ready for whatever came next. The Tarvans were stunned. They had come here expecting to witness the limits of humanity, to confirm their belief that humans were too primitive, too chaotic to play a meaningful role in the galaxy. But what they had seen was something else entirely. They had seen the true potential of humanity, and it terrified them. It wasn't just that the humans had won the fight. It was how they had won. With nothing more than their wits and whatever they could find around them, they had taken down opponents who should have been far superior. They had done it without advanced technology, without specialized training. They had done it with sheer willpower and ingenuity. The Tarvans exchanged uneasy glances. They had never considered humans a threat before. They had always assumed that species like the reptilian or the cyborg, with their physical superiority and technological advancements, were the real dangers. But now, they weren't so sure. What made the humans dangerous wasn't their strength. It wasn't their intelligence, either, at least not in the conventional sense. It was their unpredictability. Their ability to turn any situation into an advantage. Their refusal to give up, no matter how dire the circumstances. The Tarvans were logical beings. They believed in order, in rules, in predictability. But humans were the opposite. They thrived in chaos, in disorder. They didn't follow the same rules as other species. And that, more than anything else, made them the most dangerous species the Tarvans had ever encountered. As the last remnants of the fight faded, the humans slowly returned to their seats. The bartender resumed his quiet vigil behind the bar, cleaning a glass as if nothing had happened. The other patrons went back to their drinks, as if this was just another night in a rough space station bar. But for the Tarvans, nothing would ever be the same. They had come here to judge humanity, to assess whether they were ready to play a role in the galaxy's future. And now, they had their answer. Humans weren't just ready. They were dangerous. More dangerous than anyone in the Alliance had ever realized. The fight was over, but the impact of what had happened lingered. The Tarvans sat in stunned silence, their minds racing to process the scene they had just witnessed. The humans had done what no one in the Alliance would have expected. They had turned the tide of a battle that seemed hopeless and had done so with methods that defied the conventional understanding of combat. This was more than a victory, it was a revelation. The Tarvans had always prided themselves on their logic, their ability to predict outcomes based on data and analysis. They had spent centuries refining their understanding of conflict, peace, and order. In their world, everything was measurable. Everything could be calculated. But as they watched the humans calmly settle back into their seats, as if nothing had occurred, the Tarvans realized that they had overlooked something fundamental about this species. Humans didn't fit into any of the neat categories the Alliance had used to rank species. They didn't have the brute strength of the reptilian alien they had defeated. They didn't possess the advanced technology that made the cyborg such a formidable opponent. Yet, in the end, none of that had mattered. The humans had prevailed because they weren't bound by the same limitations. They didn't fight by the same rules. The Tarvans exchanged glances, each of them coming to the same unsettling conclusion. Humans weren't just another species to be evaluated and ranked. They were something entirely different. Something far more dangerous. The Tarvan leader, who had been so confident in his assessment of humanity before the fight, now found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew. How could they have been so wrong? How could they have missed this? He had seen humans as primitive, reckless, and chaotic. But now he understood that what he had mistaken for chaos was something else entirely. It was adaptability. It was creativity under pressure. It was the ability to turn even the most desperate situation into an opportunity. What struck the Tarvans most was the humans' complete lack of hesitation. When the fight had started, they hadn't panicked. They hadn't backed down. Instead, they had immediately begun looking for solutions, finding ways to turn their environment into a weapon, their disadvantages into strengths. And once they had found their rhythm, they had dismantled their enemies piece by piece, never giving them a chance to recover. There was no arrogance in the way the humans fought. No unnecessary bravado or overconfidence. They fought with the simple, direct goal of survival. And that was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. Because it meant that the humans didn't care about how they were perceived, or whether they adhered to any galactic standards. They cared about winning. About surviving. And they were willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. The Tarvan leader knew what this meant. The humans couldn't be underestimated. Not anymore. The Alliance had been wrong to place them so low in the rankings, to assume that they were a species with little to offer. In truth, the humans were far more dangerous than any of the species that had been ranked above them. Not because of their strength or their technology, but because of their ability to thrive in chaos. To use every resource available to them, no matter how small, to achieve victory. The Tarvans, for all their logic and intellect, had never faced an opponent like this. They had always believed that order and reason would triumph over everything. But what they had seen tonight had shattered that belief. The humans had shown them a different kind of strength, one that didn't rely on predictable systems or established hierarchies. The Tarvans would have to report back to the Council. They would have to explain what they had seen here, and what it meant for the Alliance. Humanity couldn't be ignored or dismissed anymore. They were a force that the galaxy had to reckon with. And the Tarvans, for all their pride in their pacifism and intellect, couldn't deny the truth. In a fight, they wouldn't stand a chance against humans. Not if the humans were determined to win. As the Tarvans rose from their seats, preparing to leave the bar, they cast one last glance at the humans. The bartender, still calm and collected, nodded at them with a slight smile, as if acknowledging their silent revelation. The humans weren't just survivors. They were predators, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now the Tarvans knew. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would not be made again. The trip back to the Tarvan homeworld would be quiet. They would deliver their report to the Council, detailing everything they had witnessed, everything they had learned. But as they traveled through the vast, empty expanse of space, the Tarvans couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over them. Humanity had always been seen as the underdog, the species struggling to find its place among the stars. But now the Tarvans understood the truth. Humans didn't need to be the strongest. They didn't need the most advanced weapons or the greatest numbers. What made them dangerous was their unpredictability, their refusal to adhere to any rules but their own. In the grand game of galactic politics and warfare, humans were the wild card, capable of changing the outcome of any situation in ways no one could predict. As the Tarvan ship disappeared into the black void of space, the bar behind them returned to its usual rhythm. The humans, unfazed by the events that had just transpired, went back to their drinks, their laughter, their quiet conversations. But beneath the surface, they knew what they had proven tonight. They knew that the galaxy was watching, and they knew that it would never see them the same way again. The humans hadn't set out to be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But after tonight, that was exactly what they had become. And the rest of the galaxy would have to live with that knowledge.